one. Welcome, everyone, to episode 18 of Confronting Our Thoughts. We're getting into a good rhythm here, so shout out to us. But we have a very special guest for this week's episode. Jump right in. Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Madeline. I'm Zach's girlfriend.
Yeah, so Madeline is going to give her 2 cents on a topic we're going to cover today, but I think we should do a little more of this. I think there's like some guys I work with that want to come on. If Luke, if you have,
I have a ton of people.
Yeah. So this is kind of off the cliff with Madeline coming, but definitely we're going to have. I mean, it's a Zoom, so I think everyone has access to Zoom now. So we'll definitely get some guys on and guys and gals on to just share their thoughts on some things and just to get to know some people and just hear what they have to say, where their mind's at with everything. So without further ado, we're going to get into the first topic of today's episode. So simply, and Luke, you could start this off since you wrote it in our shared note for the episode today. What do you value the most in relationships? And this is pertaining to your friendships, your family, yourself, significant others. So really all of the above. But let's start off, Luke. We'll kind of end it with significant others. Because I think there's a kind of a lot to handle. And then obviously Madeline's gonna chime in with that one. And so let's just start off, Luke, with like, what do you value the most in relationships aside from intimate relationships with your spouse?
Yeah, I was just driving home today and I was just like, I want to write this down and remember to talk about this. It just felt like today was like a real long day. It was a very productive day and I was going home and I was just like, what do I value about what I'm doing right now? Like I'm going home to see my family and like that's my number one thing. Like for what I value in that relationship is time. Like I want to spend time with my family. I try to at least once a week. And it can be for an hour, but as long as I'm seeing them, I feel just like a lot better about myself. And and then with like friendships, like I just value like if we're in person, like I value the energy like everyone's giving off. Like just I want good vibes, good energy to to fill the room. What was the next one I had written down? Friends, oh, like yourself, like how I was talking about myself today. Just being present, but we're gonna be talking about that more. And like I had one of those moments, and we'll get into it when we talk about the being present. So
Yeah. So Luke, I think give your this is kind of an open-ended question, but when you meet people and then you're trying to develop a relationship with them, what are some thoughts that you're asking yourself, you're asking them when you're basically deciding if they're worth spending time with? I know that sounds very like serious and cut and dry, but I think we all do that whether we realize it or not, right? We're like kind of evaluating the people that we run into in our lives and being like, is this someone that I want to spend my time with? When you're thinking about that, Luke, what are some traits that you're looking in a person?
would my friends be friends with them is kind of like the way I like to think about it. But I'm like a kind of a big guy. Like we can't kind of like really be friends after just like meeting once. Like I'll be like, okay, like I was like cool like the first time I met him. But like I'm like super bad with names, so I'm always just like, oh yeah, what was your name? So like I have to meet them, him or her, like a few times to really just get to know them and feel the way they are, feel the vibe they have. So I think that's probably the biggest thing is like if you're just a solid person and if I feel like my friends would like you, then that's all I need from me.
Yeah, I think that's kind of underrated, and I don't think we realize how much we do that. But if we're around like our group of friends, and then someone new comes in, and our friends are vibing with them, it's almost like we kind of just like go in with it, right? It doesn't feel good to be the outlier. It doesn't feel good to be the indifferent one. But to be fair, like if we're surrounding ourselves with people that we enjoy, and then they enjoy someone else, like the chances are pretty good that you're also going to enjoy your time with them. So I think that's a great answer. Zach, do you have anything to add to that, or just anything to comment when it comes to new friends? I think you're in a new location or fairly new location, so I think you have a better experience recently with that.
I would say for the most part, when I'm trying to look for new friends, for me at least, I would say I have a solid group of friends right now. like before I even moved down here that I still keep in contact with. So, and I'm not someone who wants to have a ton of friends. Um, but when I do seek out like some real friends, I look for like energy and vibes. Like Luke said, not just off one meeting is gonna determine if we're gonna be like cool or not. But I think it's for me, I'm very big on like someone being genuine, and I think you can pick up on that. Just someone who's not fake and just pretty like easygoing, and just you can have a conversation with them and it not feel forced, and it's just like interesting, if that makes sense. So big like energy, like feel the vibes out, like genuineness is I think easily like you can kind of pick up on that easily, I feel like. And that's one of the bigger things I look for because I don't want to be surrounding myself with someone who's like nice to me and then not to other people. Like I just don't want someone who's like going to be fake. So I try to pick up on that and just test the waters.
Yeah, I think a big red flag or like very popular, I guess now is people just meeting other new people for the sake of what it can do for them. Do you know, like people term it networking, but you can gauge that out pretty quickly when you're in it for the right reasons, when you're in meeting new people for the right reasons, and just genuine conversation, just genuine having a good time with other people, and you feel that person who's just like kind of just like you say, he's just there to hopefully get something out of it for himself. Like you can feel that, and I think to kind of simplify this, like if you do feel that, then I think you should definitely follow your feeling, as in like, hey, that guy probably isn't someone you want to like spend your time with. We can all kind of feel that when someone's talking to you and they're like not even talking to you, they're looking around at like whether it's like girls or other guys, it's like they're not in the moment whatsoever. They're just constantly looking at the what's next. I think that's a huge red flag because it's like, dude, what are you here for? Are you here for like connection with someone? Are you here to like talk to people, or are you just looking for like the hottest girl in the room, or are you just like looking for who has like the nicest clothes on, or and this sounds like very basic, but it's very relevant, especially when you get into bigger cities in America. Like that is, yeah, like I said, just super relevant.
Yeah, I think, or if they're just constantly talking about themselves, like if you can't have a conversation about anything meaningful, or like if you say something about yourself, they'll turn it back into like, well, I do this XYZ, like, and you can't even really have a back and forth conversation because they just want to talk about themselves the whole time. So they have like a big ego, or just don't even really care to ask you about your life, and they just want to talk about themselves. So I definitely stay away from that.
100%. I mean, there's like a couple quotes that are my favorites, like you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, and then be more interested than interesting, right? So
Absolutely.
like be more interested in other people, even if it's, and people get misconstrued with that because it can sometimes be hard to listen to people. Like it takes an effort to really engage in a conversation, especially with someone new or someone you're trying to relate to and you're trying to gauge a conversation. That takes real effort, but just know that that is important in someone else's life, and it's important to develop that skill, like people skills or conversational skills, all synonyms. That is a real skill to work on in your life. Like it doesn't just come out of nowhere. It helps if you're in a sports setting, I think, or you have people in your life, but at the end of the day, you need to work on that constantly, and that takes real effort. Sometimes that takes like in a loud noisy restaurant, like really concentrating on the conversation and asking someone, like that takes like I said, it takes energy from you, but I promise they'll feel that. And if they're worth it, whether it's a friendship or relationship, what may have you, it will pay off in the end. You know what I mean? Because they're going to feel that. And then again, that's also something to gauge if they're giving it to you in return, right? We've all talked to someone who like is just so not in the conversation at all. You're just like, dude, they're like looking around, they're just like not asking any questions, like you said, Zach, and it's just exhausting because you feel like you're speaking into the wind. And so anyway, the opposite of that is so impactful in a positive way. So just something to keep in mind. Just one thing I like to, and this might be a little like too harsh, but I really, I gauge on if people are working on themselves and if I want to like have them, or if I want to like be in their lives and vice versa. Like, are they doing something that they're, like I said, that's kind of like valuable to them? Like simply like, do they like work out, or are they like trying something, like trying to get further in their job? Guys who just like are super content and just honestly borderline lazy. Like, I don't know, like this might sound harsh, but I don't know if I really can vibe with you. I don't know if I can really talk to you about a lot of things if you're not trying to constantly work on yourself or other people and things like that. Madeline, do you have
Absolutely.
anything to add on that as far as friendships go and family?
Yeah, I think I would agree with a lot of what you guys are saying of like you kind of just feel the vibe and the energy if you kind of connect with the person. Um, and I think just in different wording, I related to a lot of it too, because I don't know if you guys have heard of this before, but there's like 5 different love languages. Um, and you can take a quiz and it's this whole thing. But my number one love language is quality time. So that's why, especially for me, like if I'm looking for a new friend or seeing if I can be friends with this person, um, just looking for someone who is comfortable doing whatever and just hanging out, just spending time together. You don't always have to be, I don't always feel like I need to be doing something with people. Like I don't always have to be going mini golfing or getting food or whatever. If we're having fun, just hanging out, like that's really, I think, comfortable and satisfying for me.
Yeah, you could argue that is more valuable. Like if you're able to sit in a room with like on a couch with someone and have a great like Friday night just because you're like shooting the shit and you have so much to relate to, I would argue that's more valuable than spending, like you said, in a mini or yeah, if you're able to have a good time in a mini golf, because that's like kind of easy, right? That's a stimulated environment. It's easy to make jokes. It's easier to hold conversation. But if you're just in a room with someone sober on a Thursday night or whatever, whatever that may have you, and you're still able to have like enjoy that time with someone, I think that speaks way louder. You know what I mean? That speaks way more volume. And that's a good point about love language. I like wrote it down, but was really more thinking of in the book when we talk about intimate relationships. But that's a good point. I like, never really thought about a love language with friendships, and then that's like it should pretty much be the same. Your intimate, your significant other, you should value that as a friendship as well. So that was a good point. Do we have anything to add as far as friendships go before we get into um, our significant other in the relationships or lack thereof for like some of us?
I'm good
Good to
here.
go. Good to go.
You got anything on family?
I think, yeah, I mean, family is definitely, it's tough. It shouldn't be, right? It should be like the easy one. But I think when it comes to family, just you have to go out of your way to make time because it's never going to, especially living away from our families. All three of us, for the most part, are away. We're not next door neighbors with our families. Some of us, Zach and Madeline are very far, and myself. So I think it's just important. I don't know. I just value like your family values a phone call and a text way more than you think. Way, way more than you think. A simple text to a cousin, be like, hey, heard about blank. Hope you're doing well. Sending it, that is like for family, that's everything. And for friendships, you could argue. But I think when people think of family, they think it's like so complicated. They have to sit there and talk on the phone for an hour and listen to like the family drama and stuff. I promise you, like your family would value your aunts, uncles. For me, like my mother, and like she values an hour phone call a week so much. And I do too, but I have to realize that she doesn't have as much going on, like as far as day-to-day stuff. Rightfully so. She's 60 years old. I wouldn't hope she's like super, super busy in her life at this moment. But I just have to kind of remind myself sometimes that, hey, you take time and really be present in this conversation with your mother, because this like means a lot to her. And it means a lot to me too, but I don't, we kind of have a lot of,
Yeah, we don't want to
more,
receive it that way. Yeah.
100%, or at least like some days are harder than others when it comes to like talking to your mother, which sounds bad, but it's true. However you put it, but yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Luke,
best part about family. Like the hard times and the good times. Like it's just still family at the end of the day.
100%. Zach, you got anything?
No, I just agree with we talk about check-ins, like sending a text to your good friends or something like out of the blue, just like hope you're doing well, just checking in on you. Like the same thing for family, just a simple text or like a little phone call out of the blue that they might not be expecting could just go a long way. And then you get a conversation out of it and catch up with your family. So I think that's a very good point.
100%. And like with social media now, we, it's just for like cousins and I don't know, like maybe siblings. We kind of know what's going on in their life for the most part. if you are on social media. So you almost forget to ask them what's going on in their life, but like, because they don't know that
Yeah.
if that makes sense. You just subconsciously be like, oh, I know what's going on with my cousins or whatever it may be. So don't think that they just assume what's going on. Just ask them, hey, how's everything going? What do you like? What do you have going on right now? And yeah, so with that being said, I think it's we can transition into intimate relationships. And Luke, I'll start with you. When you're looking for a significant other, give me two things when you're thinking about someone you want to spend real time and real energy and with. What are two things that are kind of must-haves, in lack of
It's
better
kind
terms?
of like effort. I'd say effort because we need to be putting in 100% for each of us, and, and I want her to force me to achieve my goals as I would want her to achieve her goals. And then I'd probably say trust, just the to have the trust and the faith within the relationship is just a big thing for me.
So
I
where
don't
do
know
you,
how to explain it for me, but
no, you're good.
I just know.
I'll ask you this. Where do you think, how do you think trust gets developed in a relationship?
I don't know. I feel like I kind of start off with I will trust you. Like I just met you, but I'll trust you until you break that trust. That's the kind of person I am. If you break that trust, then it's hard to redeem yourself. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of people are like that.
100%. But you're giving someone your full, and I think we might misconstrue this. When you trust someone, I think it's in the manner of like, you are saying, okay, I'm giving my all into this because I
Hmm.
am trusting this person to like accept my all, or like in a sense of like, people just think like trust is just like cheating, which it is, but also you need to trust them with having with valuing like you as a person. Does that make sense?
Right.
So like, I'm gonna trust someone enough so like when I am in this relationship, I'm trusting myself and them that I'm not wasting my time. And with that comes
Hmm.
like, obviously if that person is cheating, then you're wasting your time. But there's also a trust as in like, no, I trust this person so much to take my energy and time that I'm giving her, and then like using it for our relationship. Does that make sense? Kind of.
Yeah, that's where I was like, that was in my head. The way you're saying it, I just didn't know how to say it. Like, yeah, it kind of puts it that way. Yeah,
Okay.
I know what you mean.
Zach, I know your
Yeah,
girlfriend's right there. I
like
don't
in
want
my
to put you on
mind.
the
Go ahead.
spot, but yeah, what are two things, Zach? And you can either piggyback off what Luke said, or you could add something else.
Things that I look for in a partner.
Correct.
Um, for me, the number one is communication. So I think I myself am a decent communicator, so I want that to be kind of reciprocated, and the communication kind of makes the relationship go for me, like in my opinion. So I think if you're both on the same page, then you can kind of get from point A to point B because you can do it together. And I always say like two is better than one. So being on the same page with each other is definitely a big factor for me. And um, I'd say someone who has like I don't know, it's a toss up between like individuality, like having their own like sense of autonomy, or just kind of being like driven, like having their own goals, having stuff that they're working on in their own life. And uh, I just think either one of those two kind of go hand in hand. I think like if you're individual, then you're chasing like after something. So I think someone who just has goals and isn't just kind of coasting by, just someone I can grow with and like progress through my life as we're like both like learning and developing. So I think that those are probably the biggest ones for me.
Madeline, your turn.
Honestly, my first is really the same, just the ability to communicate clearly and openly, which is definitely a very difficult skill. Even if all you can communicate in the moment is like, um, I'm having a really hard day, I just need like a minute. Just doing your best to communicate really openly and honestly. And then I would say my second is probably shared values, like and or interests. So I think if you have very different values or goals or, visions for your futures, it's probably just not going to work out and you're going to end up butting heads.
100%. When it comes to communication, I think there's levels to it. Like there's levels to this shit, but communication, because I think and some are easier than others, but like communicating your day is like the first level. Like I think that's so important in relationships. You'd be like, hey, this is because when you're communicating with your day, you're therefore like making time for that person or letting that person know that you don't have time. And then there's the next level of communication where it's like Madeline was saying, it's just being vulnerable, like communicating your internal feelings, which is arguably it's the hardest one, because one, you have to communicate them within yourself, understand them, or not necessarily understand them, but feel them. And then how can I try to explain this to the best of my ability to my significant other, so therefore they can help, like best case scenario, they can help with them, or simply just be aware of how you are feeling. Because I mean, we know how it feels when we're in a relationship with someone and they just aren't necessarily acting the way that we feel like they should be in that moment. And that sounds very controlling, but you have all like felt that. It's like, man, I don't really know I just feel like our energies are different right now. But if that person is a good communicator, they can let you know that right away. So you're not constantly in your head thinking about that. But with all of that being said, that takes time, that takes communication. It's not like a go or no go when it comes to communication as a person. It's like you need to evolve your communication through your relationship. As your life is changing, as their life is changing, your communication skills need to be evolving into something that is effortless, one day. But also will never just completely be effortless, because it's something that's not necessarily natural to talk, like to tell everyone or to tell someone how you're feeling the most, like at all times, and what's going on in your day isn't necessarily a natural instinct that we have, like especially growing up like how we did. It was more of like an internal sense, like we never even told our mom what we were doing throughout the day. You know what I mean? So like now we're, you know what I mean? Like that's a shitty example, but and then like, let alone talking about feelings, like we suppressed our feelings internally, let alone like now we have to feel those feelings and then communicate those feelings with someone else, so they're understanding you just as well. But that's all that is a skill. You're not going to be good at that at the point, but I think it's important to be with someone who you can feel that they're trying to communicate those feelings, as well as you are also willing to communicate those feelings with someone. And you should be with someone who you think is worth sharing those feelings with, if that makes sense. I think that's a huge caveat to add. Like if you feel like you're with someone who doesn't necessarily deserve to hear how you feel, then maybe that's not necessarily the person you should be spending your time with right now.
I think the communication part, with there being levels, I think it also goes hand in hand with what Luke said. Like trust also has levels to it, and I think both of them over time will build and like strengthen as you, like if you keep going and sharing the journey with your significant other. So I think with communication, it can come to a point of, anyone can tell someone what you want. Like, I want you to do this, or I want this from you. But what you were talking about, Tom, like when you're in a vulnerable like place and you're actually like asking your partner, like you need something from them and you're asking them to supply that to you, like that's a completely different conversation than saying what you want. So I'm thinking back to a class we had over the summer when, I don't remember the first part, but it's like changing for like couples, like changing something to a vulnerable ask. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I do know what you're talking about.
But it's like something with couples, like you're not.
Oh, it triggered demand to a vulnerable ask. Was that it?
Yeah, maybe something like, instead of demanding something from your partner, like they're probably gonna not receive that well, and there's probably gonna be an argument. Instead of demanding something that you want or need, if you do like a vulnerable ask, so like you're being vulnerable with them, digging into your feelings and like being open to them, like, hey, I'm not feeling like I'm good enough lately. Like, would you be able to show me that you care about me? Or like, would you be able to give me some reassurance more? Or like little like things like that you actually ask your partner, instead of saying like, Like, I want you to, I don't know, something simple. I don't know.
Well, in that situation with you're saying like, I feel like I'm not good enough. Maybe you've been lashing out and
Yeah.
saying like, yelling at them like, I don't want you to go out with your friends if I'm not there or something. But it's actually because underneath that is that you're feeling self-conscious and other things in yourself. And it's causing you to lash out and have these like triggered reactions to your partner.
Yeah. So like checking yourself and trying to be as open as you can with your partner and like asking them if you like need something from them, just trying to communicate that. And I do think like the communication piece is so important when it comes to like a lasting relationship because you're gonna butt heads with your partner whether you like it or not. And it's just if you have the ability to communicate and get through those like little rough patches, that's like the make or break point of like the relationship lasting or not, I think.
Yeah, so what's the, and this is a question for both of you guys, Zach and Madeline, when someone rebuttals that with like, well, if I'm with someone, I feel like they should know, it's a simple way to put it. I feel like they should know what I need at that moment. Like, why do I need to do a vulnerable ask for them? Does that, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, yeah.
I think that's something that I hate to be like really like counselor about it, but I
No,
think
no,
that's
you're good.
something that we've talked about a lot in our classes, and that is a very common like situation that couples encounter. Like, well, he should just know that I want him to do this, or like he should just know that it's his turn to do the dishes or whatever the thing is. Like, um, even if you feel or you think that it's obvious, that doesn't mean that your partner thinks that it's obvious, or it doesn't mean that your partner knows they need to do XYZ. So you're essentially asking them to read your mind in that moment. And even if it's kind of frustrating that you have to make this ask and verbalize it, you can't expect your partner to read your mind all the time or even ever. And it's just better and healthier for both of you in the end to verbalize and say what you want.
Zach, you're
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say self-disclosure, but like we've gotten into like little disagreements or like not even arguments, just like something happened and maybe she or I was upset or hurt in that moment, but the other person did not pick up on that. So conversations or life or whatever you want to call it is just going normally. But obviously the other person is not feeling normal. But as like, for example, like just last night something happened and she was hurt about something, but I did not know. I didn't pick up on it. And that's just like one of those things like maybe like some partners can pick up on it like in certain instances, but for the most part it's going to come from communicating and it just took like us having a conversation about it to even me realizing like what went down and then just like a simple like apology and like talking it out and then like you go on about your day. But if you didn't have that conversation in the first place, I would have never known that she's actually upset, hurt, whatever you want to, whatever emotion it is. So uh I do think what like with your question, like it's a lot to ask of your partner to kind of know what you want or what you're like yearning for in that moment. So but every couple is different also, so I can't, I'm just speaking for my experience also.
No, that's perfect. And I also think there's so much value in evaluating how that person reacts to what you just said about your in feelings, right? Like, for example, if, I don't know, I don't want to like throw you guys out there. I have no idea what the situation was, but if Madeline was like, hey, Zach, this is how I feel about X. And Zach's reaction was anything other than like, if it was anything other than like, okay, let me do whatever it takes to make you feel better, so therefore we can become better as a relationship. I know that's very black and white and like easier said than done, but if your reaction is anything other than that, then like what's the point of like being in a relationship with that person? I know it's like very harsh, but people who will react in a way of like their ego will get in the way and they'll be like, well, I think I should be better of a boyfriend than what I am, so therefore I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong. And so like that's just like your ego getting away, that you thinking that you're better than what you really are. And it's just like throw that shit out the window, throw your ego out the window, and just listen to your significant other and see how you can resolve this problem. Because I would assume 99% of the problems could just be resolved with someone, like just someone doing a simple act differently, you know, that's like super simple. But if you never think that you're doing anything wrong, then that's never going to happen, right? That's like the biggest issue, I think, in couples.
And that's where like a big accountability piece comes in. People don't want to take accountability for what they do, and they try to like rationalize what they just did and kind of not even accept what the partner may be feeling or experiencing, like trying to rationalize what they did that even so like made their partner feel like shit. Like they don't even see that, they don't even hear that, because they're just trying to defend their own position. So like putting your pride aside and taking accountability is a huge part also.
Yeah, and I think we all value communicate. I think we all value communication, and a part of that is that you can't just like express what you want and like express happy feelings well. It's that you can also argue well.
Yeah, constructive argument or constructive communication or constructive effective communication, however you want to put it. I think at the end of the day, all this takes is real effort from both people. And I think, you know, especially young relationships, including myself, I didn't realize that, you know, relationships took effort. And that sounds very basic, but I think, you know, after a certain, like the honeymoon phase of relationships, it takes effort from you, you know, what I might get, I'm getting fucking in a blender right now by these two. They're just laughing at me. But no, I mean, I think that's like simple, but it's true. Yeah, and I don't mean effort in like, oh, I need to go do this for someone, but like, oh, this is hard right now with this person. This is the first time it's ever been hard. Let me like do something. Like let me put in like I said, the extra effort. You guys got me so fucking self-conscious here. Luke, anything to add
No,
before I
it was
fucking
just
cry?
funny, man.
No, I'm just on the same page with everybody. I'm just taking it all in. I'm just kind of like taking notes down because it's been a minute, but
So
yeah,
I'll go on like
I'm right there with you.
just a little like little rant, just like quick.
go on.
It's just like for people going through, like we're all going through this life, whether you're, you know, young adult or I don't know who's listening to this, but or who's gonna hear this, but like whether you're an adult, young adult male, you're a female, like whatever have you, like there's gonna be ups and downs in life. And one thing I would definitely like I would bet my life on is you can't go through this life alone. So having relationships, whether that's with a significant other, uh, like being really close with family, friends, like you need other people in your corner that you can kind of turn to in times of need. Like you're not going to be able to go through this life all by yourself. So just picking up on these kind of things we're talking about and just being aware of maybe what you would be looking for in a partner or some friends that you might be seeking out. Like you're going to need people in your corner when you go through this life, and you're not going to be able to go through this life all by yourself. And I think that's just my opinion. But I would stand by that to the end for sure.
I love that. I love that. I think a lot of people think they're like kind of they have so much confidence in themselves that they're like, I can go through anything like by myself. And I think that's just going to lead to, like we kind of talked about, just pushing those emotions off to the side the other episode. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. Like, if not only is it okay to not be okay, but this world, this life is meant to be shared with other people. You know, I'm not saying you need to get married, you need to have a family and kids, but you need to want to be around people that you value, you know, and you value their time and they value your time. And yeah, I think it's I wanted to read this Jordan Peterson quote. Living things die after all without attention. This isn't pertaining to relationships. Living things die after all without attention. Life is indistinguishable from effortful maintenance. No one finds a match so perfect that the need for continued attention and work vanishes. And besides, if you found the perfect person, he or she would run away from ever so imperfect you in justifiable horror. In truth, what you need, what you deserve, after all, is someone exactly as imperfect as you. I think what like the thoughts that Zach and Madeline were sharing back and forth about communication was that you're understanding that you are an imperfect person, whether you're asking someone for something and vice, or you're getting asked for something more of you. The moment you realize that you are imperfect in your relationship, in your job, in like whatever the case may be, this isn't being harsh on yourself, but this is realizing that there's always room to grow. And especially in relationships, when you really realize that and really believe that to be the truth, because it is, then you have room, you forever have room to grow. Basically, don't think you're ever too good to not work on your relationship with your significant other, whether you're with them for 6 months or 20 years. Like all living things die. And like what Dr. Peterson said was, what you deserve, after all, is someone exactly as imperfect as you, because everyone is imperfect. And yeah. Any closing thoughts on relationships, Luke?
I'm good here. I'm good for present.
Yeah. We have one more thing I just want to talk about. So I was talking about one friend on a hike, and he said, we were just talking about relationships, long story short. And I said, being scared to see someone with someone else is not a valid reason to stay with that person. And I think that's very, very relevant in all aspects of or all chapters of your life, especially when you're young, and especially in the day of social media, where you can constantly see what everyone's doing, their relationships, et cetera, et cetera. So being scared to see someone with someone else is not a valid reason to stay with that person. And that is very, very hard for anyone to kind of tell themselves and to realize, because a lot of people are just, people, the typical like going through a break, or like, oh, we're on a break. I feel like a lot of that is just two people scared to let each other go date someone else. And so they're just going to try to do the very last to just keep each other from going and exploring their own separate lives. And so with that being said, what are some valid reasons to stay with a person in times of in hardships, right? Or relationships, like Zach and Madeline said, there's ups and downs to all aspects of life, and the relationships you have are no exception to that. So yeah, Luke, what are some like valid reasons to not be with someone? I think.
I really like that quote. It's kind of saying like you don't want to be with someone just because you have to be with them. Like I want to value, like in the back of your mind, like I feel like this is for everyone. Like, yeah, like you're gonna be scared to lose that person. But I think what's really important is you just want whatever's best for that person. Say you do lose that said person, I would just want anything that makes them happy at the end of the day. And that's where I value that extremely. Like I don't want I don't want to date some girl that is just terrified to lose me and just goes crazy over that. Like I don't want that. I want her to wish the best for me at all times. But sorry, what was the question again? I just want
Yeah, I mean, no. I mean, I think you're going up the right alley there. It was just, what are some valid reasons to like not stay with a person? And we don't really need to get into like nitty gritty or like details here. I just think it's important that I feel like a lot of people are going through an aspect of like wanting to stay with someone versus not wanting to stay with someone. And I don't really know what kind of advice or how we can kind of spark this conversation some more, but just maybe something like you would have told yourself in the past, or something you're going to tell yourself in the future when you're going through a situation of, thinking about ending with someone or thinking about keeping the relationship going,
Yeah. I mean, I'll come back to you on that. What do you see when you're evaluating that in yourself?
Yeah. I mean, I'm very like, I guess like to the point when it comes to relationships. Like if I can't see myself marrying this person and therefore like having kids one day down the road in a family, then I'm literally not going to waste my time and energy with them. Like, and this isn't like, this isn't the first 5 seconds, but like if I can't imagine like, oh no, this person would be a good partner to spend my life with because she values the same thing as I do. Like Madeline was saying, does she like want kids one day? I mean, like if a girl doesn't want kids, like that's obviously her decision, and I know I want kids, why am I really going to waste any effort and energy towards that, you know? And I know that's like
For sure.
easier said than done, you know, if you have like whatever your situation may be, but like I'm telling you, like that's like I promise you that other person will value your truth, right? And will value you not wasting their time. And so I mean, those are like, I guess the big things that I value in someone is or a reason to stay with them if they see a future together. You know, that doesn't mean I need to like talk to them about marriage and stuff. But if you really can't sit down and be like, oh shit, I like the more we spend time with together, like it's very effortless, you know, and like we value when we do hobbies together. I would enjoy that hobby if it was just with me, you know what I mean? Because I enjoy the activity, or like our day to day adds up. Like she likes like eating healthier foods and cooking healthier foods. I do too. Like these little things that looks aside, you know, like honeymoon phase aside, this is the shit that keeps you going through the years and decades and through families and stuff, right? And not that someone can't change, but to be honest with you, like it's not worth your time trying to like change and save someone, right? If they're not giving the effort within themselves.
Yeah, that was one thing I was thinking about today too, was I really value like my time to myself. But like there's like that's kind of where I was very productive today, and I was just working on some relationships here. Like I was with my family, I was with friends, stuff like that. And like I value all the time that I spend with people. And it's hard, especially like from where I'm at right now, because like I'm like, oh, where can I fit a relationship in my like busy schedule? Like I'm trying to tell myself you're not as busy as you really are. So because like there's always things that you can adjust. But yeah, yeah, I value time. I'll go with that.
Yeah, and if you when you find like the right person to be spending your time with, you will like
You'll make that time.
You'll just say you'll make the time, right?
Yeah.
Because it's worth
because you want to yeah, it's worth your time to go for that.
100%. It's worth the plane ticket. It's worth like, you know, the like putting in some PTO or some like, you know, PTO for work and all these things. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if it is a long distance situation, all those things will be worth it for you, you know, with the right person. So
yeah, it's vice versa too, because like I want to respect their time. I want them to work on whatever they got going on, and like I will support them every step of the way.
100%. Yeah, Zach and Madeline, do you guys have anything to?
I think kind of going back to the two big values, like I said, I really value like open, honest communication and having shared values and interests. And I think Zach and I communicate really well. Not always easy, obviously, and the longer we're together, I think the communication gets better because we learn each other's styles more. And you know, he does also sort of like check that box, if you want to say it like that, of shared values, goals, interests. And I think also we have each other's best interests at heart. Like I do want him to succeed. I think that he wants me to succeed in our own individual endeavors. And I think that's really important because I think we're also both pretty like independent people. So I don't see either of us like stifling the other's independence.
Yeah, I think a big thing that happens with us is we kind of push each other to like be better versions of ourselves. And in that comes being better together. So I think that's like a big thing for me of like, well, why stay with this person? Well, I think for one, like in talking to Madeline, like she makes me a better person. So therefore, like I'm a better person, like when I'm going to school or going to the gym, like just fizzles into all other aspects of my life because I'm becoming just a more well-rounded individual just from spending time with her and like doing things with her. So I think the aspect of just becoming better together is a big reason for me to stay together. And it's just like you said, Tom, I think if you see like a future with that person and you kind of want to continue on and like you still have the want and like looks aside, like you said, like the personality and like spending actual time with that person is what get you through the tough times. It's not like, oh, they're so hot, I'm just gonna stay with them. Like once you realize that it's like the little things that you might have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, like that's the things that you really need to learn to love or grow to accept more. So it's just like a constant battle of growing through change and just like changing together.
Complementing each other's growth.
100%. And I think it's okay. Not always okay. I think it's good if someone wants to work on themselves for that other person to like, I'm trying to say this, like for that other person's satisfaction. I don't know, like, let me break that down. So like, I want to become a better person. So my significant other is with a better person. Does that like, I know it's very simply put, but like there should be an aspect of that. Like I care so much about this other person that I want her to like feel better about who she's with. Do you know what I mean? And with that being me, and obviously vice versa, you know, I think that's not the only reason to grow as a person. You should want to do it for yourself, but like, that's okay if that's going through your mind of like, man, I don't feel like doing this today, but like, man, I know my significant other, like, would want this for me, or like, this is, I don't know, it's just someone else that's depending on you. And so it's okay to like feel that pressure in a kind of, in a sense, in a healthy way. I don't know if I'm wording that correctly, but yeah, with all of this though being said, independence is everything too. Sorry, go on. I was going to move on. Zach, so go on.
No, I was just going to say, I think like you want to show up for yourself so you can show up for your partner.
Perfect. That was, thank you. Yes. It's okay. Like, yeah, I could go back and forth to ego, but like the ego talks like, man, I want my girl to be like proud of like who she's with, or like, I don't know, like it's lack of better terms, like show their person off, you know. It's like if they're talking about her friends, like what is she talking, like, oh yeah, he's working on like this, he's like doing this, and vice versa, she's working on this and she's working on this. That's like important for someone. Not like, dude, you should see like her ass, you know, like I don't think that's you know what I mean. It sounds silly, but like I'm like, there's, you know, people value that so much that they'll like pay to have it more valuable, you know? Anyway. Well, that was that.
I have like a little question.
Keep going.
Just, it's on top of this. It just
Perfect.
came up. Like, what do you guys think of if a boyfriend or girlfriend broke up with their significant other because they said they had to work on themselves? Just like, what do you think of that?
Luke,
that reasoning.
I value it. Like because that's where I was, and I feel like I needed some growth, and I needed to experience what I wanted to experience. And at the time, like I can imagine like someone, well, the person that is saying that, like the other person, their significant other, will not know how to react at that moment, in which they wouldn't understand. I feel like be like, oh, why am I not enough? Why is this person leaving me to work on themselves? Like I can understand that, and it makes me feel bad. But at the end of the day, like if I would understand someone if they told me like, hey, I just got to work on myself, and maybe at some point down the road, then if stars align, then that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think in other words of putting it, like they just need to kind of get to know themselves better as a person. Right. When you work on yourself, you're spending time with yourself. And listen, this is for the example of someone that is actually working on themselves instead of just using that as an excuse to like go out more with their friends and vice versa. But like the actual situation where someone's like, no, I just need like time to myself to work on myself. I think that person is expressing in a different language, as in like, man, I just want to know, like, I want to learn more about who I am and what I want in my life, you know, and with that comes what I want in a significant other. Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're getting those feelings time and time again, you need to chase that, because I don't like, and this is really towards like younger people for the most part, you know, that like they have a lot of stuff on their plate, you know, like career, college, finances, all of these things that is bundling up while trying to figure out what they want to do, while trying to be the best boyfriend or girlfriend for someone else. Like that is a lot. you know? And if you truly believe that this one aspect of your life, this relationship part of your life, is what's taking away from you trying to traffic your way through your current life and get to know yourself, then like follow that intuition. But I mean, you have to also realize, you know, you're now living your life like by yourself. There's also like this glorified idea of like being by yourself and like doing everything for yourself and traveling by yourself. All of that is glorified. I promise you, doing things with someone that you truly enjoy spending your time with, whether that's friendship or relationships, is significantly more valuable than doing it by yourself. Like speaking from example, not that I've like done a bunch of shit by myself, but you know, been like by myself for a year, done a lot of stuff by myself. And not that I didn't enjoy time with myself, but time and time again, I would be like, man, I wish I had some close friends out here to do this with, or I wish I had a significant other to share this experience with. Never are you really like with someone and you're like, man, I really wish I was by myself experiencing this. Like, no, it really, when you're with the right people in your life, those experiences are that much more valuable to you and just that much more better. So I'm not saying that you should constantly be chasing that, but if the idea, like the grass is always greener mentality, is not true with relationships, when it comes to people that are actually worth your time and stuff. Does that answer your question, Zach? And then also you can give your 2 cents as well, Madeline, as well.
I mean, I agree with what all you guys were saying for sure. I think time and time again, it might be difficult if you're in a relationship and you need some time to kind of learn who you are a little bit more. I can see it being difficult doing that when trying to put effort into a relationship with someone else. So I can see it being a valid reason if, like you said, Tom, if you're actually working on yourself and not just using it as an excuse to go out and, you know, start an OnlyFans, go pay for OnlyFans or whatever.
100%. Yeah.
People do these days. But
yeah.
I do think if you do have those feelings where you kind of just feel like something isn't right and something's not adding up in your relationship and you kind of just it doesn't feel right, then I think if you need to work on yourself and try to figure out who you are a little bit more, I think that could be a valid reason to kind of explore that. But also getting off on like a little bit of a tangent, it makes me think of when people say like right person, wrong time. And I think like a year ago, like a year ago, I would have agreed with that statement, but more and more I'm starting to disagree with right person, wrong time. And I think it comes back to what we talked about a little bit ago. It's like if you do want something or someone to work, you'll make time for it. You'll make it work. If it's meant to be, you'll make it work, whether that be long distance or what have you. And I think the effort piece really speaks volumes to me when it comes to that. So I'm not, yeah, I was like a little bit of a tangent, but yeah.
No, I agree with that. Like, I feel like the saying should be changed to right person, right time. Just like you're gaining those relationship skills in that relationship at that time. And if it's not right, then it's not right. Then I'll respect that you had the intuition, you had a calling in your head that you're just like, man, I really want to go chase whatever it is that I want to chase.
Yeah, I think 100, just like, yeah, I agree with all of you guys. And that doesn't necessarily mean that wrong person, wrong time. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's always going to be the wrong person throughout your life. You know what I mean? In that moment,
right,
it could be wrong person, wrong time. And then sometime down the road, after you work on yourself or whatever may have you, it could then be right person, right time with that same person, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So, and yeah, like if it's right, and if you're getting those feelings of like time and time again of like that person's constantly on your mind, and you can just really see yourself with that person after you spent months, years away from that person. I mean, like, listen, it's so easy to get in contact with someone nowadays. Like, use that to your advantage and like go chase it. You know what I mean? Like, and that speaks more from who you are as a person, because that means you actually believe in yourself. and you believe yourself as someone who can be a significant other for someone else. That's important. A lot of people won't go that step and won't take that risk and, I don't know, send a text or like, yeah, get the FaceTime call because they're not confident within themselves that they're worth it. I think the moment that you truly feel like you can do it, and you need to go, because that's going to, they're going to respect that. They're going to respect that you feel valuable as a person. And it speaks to you about yourself. You can always hang your hat on like, hey, listen, I did this. I went and like took a risk. I jumped with this person. I texted this person that I wanted to get back together with them or whatever, just catch up with that person. That speaks about who you are and that you're someone that believes in yourself and you're someone that has a good self-talk that like, oh, I'm ready for this now. You know what I mean? I'm ready for this relationship right now. And listen, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, at least you can say that you fucking did it for yourself because you believed in yourself. That's so damn important. More valuable, I think, than if the relationship works or not. The fact that you can say, fuck yeah, like I took a risk for someone else. I took a risk for myself because I believed in myself. No, I think that was perfect, Zach, what you said.
That was beautifully said. Beautifully said.
Well, listen, we were going to go into something else, but we're about an hour into this joint. Do we want to, this is kind of you guys want to read the Daily Stoic again? We'll finish with the Daily Stoic. Unless Madeline, do you have any closing comments? We'll go around the horn. Please no rush if you have some.
No, I'm all good. It was fun hanging out and chatting with you guys.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for coming on.
I'm excited to see everyone in person.
Our first guest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pumped. I'm very excited.
Yeah. Okay, we'll read this and then we'll kind of sign off and talk about the week ahead. So, August 6th, Daily Stoic. Have you ever been hopelessly losing a game that suddenly broke wide open and you won? Remember that time when you thought you were certain to fail the test, but with an all-nighter and some luck, you managed to eke out a decent score. That hunch you pursued that others would have given up on, that turned out brilliantly. We could kind of relate that to what we just talked about. It's that kind of energy and creativity and above all, faith in yourself that you need right now. Defeatism won't get you anywhere except defeat, but focusing your entire effort on the little bit of room, the tiny scrap of opportunity is your best shot. An aide to Lyndon Johnson once remarked that around the man, Lyndon Johnson, there was a feeling if you did everything, you would win. Everything, or as Marcus Aurelius, I butchered that, or as Marcus put, if it's humanly possible, you can do it. We can absolutely relate that to relationships. You know what I mean? Like, especially long distance relationships or like going through hardships. People get so caught up in like, man, this is like, this shouldn't be this hard. It's like relationship is just another aspect of your life. There's going to be trials and tribulations, but through those trials comes, for the most part, a great uproar of experience and, and great feelings. Your relationship is just no exception to that. And I think that's so, so important to really just to tell yourself when you're in a new relationship or you're looking for a significant other, that first roadblock you hit, don't fucking like panic and just hit the panic button and freak out. If you like, think about it. If you faced a subject that was hard or challenging, would you say, oh, fuck this, I'm giving up on this? No, your relationship is the same. You need to have the same mindset. And people are like, well, isn't that forcing it? It's like, you're going to get a gauge on like, if that person is also giving the effort that you're giving, then you can make it through anything. And so with that, I got nothing else. Luke.
No, that was good. I think that I think we say it all the time. You're just going to have ups and downs and you're just going to keep going through it. It was beautiful.
Zach, anything?
No, I would agree with that. I think everyone is fighting their own battle, and take some time to yourself, try to learn who you are and how to get along in this world, and also keep going for sure.
Madeline, last but not least.
Yeah, I think I was just gonna poke at you a little bit that if you want to be an active participant in your life takes effort. Your relationships are part of your life, so ipso facto, relationships take effort too.
100%, 100%. Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate Madeline joining. Little shot at me, but that's okay. I needed that. All right, guys, thanks for listening. We will be back maybe in person I don't know.
We got to figure it out.
Yeah, we'll talk